Welcome. My name's Andrew. I'm a EUC Specialist Solutions Architect at AWS. And today we're going to talk through what Amazon WorkDocs is, how it can help you as a solution, and ultimately why use Amazon WorkDocs in your environment. So impressed will you be with Amazon WorkDocs and how it can be used to help your users, help your customers collaborate, store documents securely, that you're going to be bound to want to understand how to deploy Amazon WorkDocs. So we'll talk through how you can get started, we'll give a demo of making use of Amazon WorkDocs, and then leave with getting started tips and tricks so that you can bring Amazon WorkDocs into your environment. We see a number of different business drivers for companies, such as yours, seeking to migrate to the cloud. The cloud use case years ago was primarily driven by savings leveraging cloud technologies. We see a lot of data center consolidation projects, especially in companies that have been active with acquisitions or experienced infrastructure sprawl over the years. Any cost-conscious organizations are looking for ways to improve the bottom line by reducing their technical debt. Moving from CapEx to OpEx and taking advantage of the elasticity of compute in the cloud and of more DevOps approach with automation. Increasing business agility is now driving the move to the cloud. Some of our customers are creating business cases where they believe their workforce can be 30 to 70% more productive and deliver features, deliver content, deliver services much faster as a result of migrating their skills and applications to the cloud. We are increasingly seeing companies looking to completely reimagine their business using modern technology as part of a larger digital transformation project and innovation. And while there are a lot of reasons enterprises are motivated to migrate legacy systems to the cloud, oftentimes comprising tens of thousands of servers or dozens of data centers or petabytes of data, they're asking a lot of questions about how they can do it quickly. So Amazon WorkDocs, Andy, where does that fit in? Amazon WorkDocs is a secure, easy-to-use cloud storage service that lets you store content, files, documents across teams and collaborate on projects. WorkDocs is a secure content store where you own and control your files. You can specify which AWS region stores user files to help maintain data locality. WorkDocs runs on one of the world's largest cloud infrastructures, built to satisfy the requirements of our most security-sensitive customers. WorkDocs is HIPAA eligible, PCI eligible, meets ISO compliance requirements. And in addition, files on WorkDocs are encrypted in transit and at rest. You can manage access to your existing IT resources such as Active Directory to take advantage of security groups, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and track user and file activity in near real time. Users can use the WorkDocs web client, mobile applications, WorkDocs Drive, or indeed third-party apps that are OAuth 2 compliant to manage their files. And WorkDocs integrates easily with workspaces and AppStream, so your content is available from any environment, any device, anywhere. And WorkDocs also comes with an extensive software development that helps you customize your collaboration and management capabilities into your solutions, into your applications. Using admin API actions, you can integrate WorkDocs with your existing solutions, such as auditing, e-discovery, maybe even data loss prevention. Using user API actions can allow you to build third-party apps so you can programmatically manage files, comments, notifications, sharing. The WorkDocs SDK is part of the AWS SDK software development kit and integrates with other AWS services. So you can easily take advantage of the power of AWS for security, for monitoring, business logic, analytics, storage, artificial intelligence, app development, and some point in time, possibly even making the tea. You can get started in minutes with the same AWS tools you are already familiar with. Amazon WorkDocs customers frequently tell us that they actively use Amazon WorkDocs for a range of use cases. Our customers want to discover cost savings. They want to have better resource efficiency and increase their operational resilience and improved business agility. With WorkDocs, you've a secure, fully managed file system. WorkDocs customers frequently tell us they actively use Amazon WorkDocs for the reasons that you can see on the screen. Our customers want to discover cost savings, have better resource efficiency, and increase their operational resilience. improved business agility. With WorkDocs, you have a secure, fully managed file storage with an extensible SDK service. Key for many of our customers is to move to a more efficient and agile way to share data within an organization and from an organization to customers, to partners, by moving from a legacy network file stores to cloud-based, searchable, securely accessible service. With the WorkDocs Client Drive for Windows and Mac users, cloud-based files viewable and actionable as part of their Explorer or Finder view. The WorkDocs Drive retrieves files from the cloud on demand, reducing the storage required on the end device and automatically syncing saved files from that end device to the cloud, so keeping documents secure and accessible. This reduces the impact of laptop users who forget to copy that important doc before they leave the laptop at home. They can create and edit files in Drive, lock files to prevent overwrite. Changes are automatically saved to the cloud. This allows for an almost unchanged desktop experience anchored in Windows, File Explorer or Mac Finder. User home drives, team drives replace traditional network and shared drives. This enables more mobile working by allowing access to files when needed without having to download the files. Save the files on local storage. Right-click on files before you leave for the office, before you leave home. You can now share files with co-workers and teams using your Active Directory credentials, their Active Directory credentials. Collaboration is improved not just by allowing ready access to the source files, but allowing you to interact with that source file, that document in real time. You can edit the document together with your team using HandCom, or you can provide comments and feedback on your teammates' documents, or have them provide feedback on yours. User-centric SDKs, admin SDKs are available as part of the AWS SDK. You can add WorkDocs features to web or mobile applications, integrating your business tools with WorkDocs or enhance WorkDocs capability with your applications, with your business processes. Admin controls. Admin controls allow your administrators the policy and configuration of the WorkDocs environment. So there's user controls. User controls and sharing site controls are available in the WorkDocs admin console, which we'll see in the upcoming demo. The WorkDocs admin console is separate from your AWS admin console. Once a WorkDocs site has been created and associated with your Active Directory, you can assign admins and they can control the environment for WorkDocs using the WorkDocs admin console. We'll talk about real-time site-wide activity with real-time auditing. You can also have diagnostic logging for client components of WorkDocs Drives and WorkDocs Companion. If you want to dive deeper to understanding AWS compliance controls, there are a number of compliance white papers on the AWS compliance website. If you need NDA agreements or business associated addendums, these are available through AWS Artifact. Security is key. You want to maintain a flexible, scalable user experience, but what assurance do organizations do you have that your data is secure in the cloud? Now, WorkDocs relies on Active Directory integration. That AD could be a managed Active Directory that you've created in AWS for your cloud users. You can reference your own Active Directory using an Active Directory connector. That could be in your existing on-prem environment via VPN, or you could have extended your AD into AWS to allow direct access from the AWS environment. For users authenticating remotely, you can enable multi-factor authentication using Radius to add an additional layer of user security. WorkDocs docs are encrypted at rest and when they're transferred to and from the end device. So that could be a Windows device, could be Mac, Android, iOS, or a device running a supported browser. The WorkDocs service is HIPAA eligible, PCI DSS compliant. We talked about cloud migration being driven by operational resilience. The AWS global infrastructure is built around AWS regions and availability zones. AWS regions provide multiple physically separated and isolated availability zones, which are connected with low latency, high throughput, and highly redundant networking. With availability zones, you can design and operate applications and databases that automatically fail over between availability zones without interruption. Availability zones are more highly available, fault-tolerant, and scalable than traditional single or multiple data center infrastructures. With WorkDocs, you've 6 regions that you can select from to help match the data residency requirements that you might have. These are North Virginia, Oregon, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo, and Ireland. To add to that resiliency, you've got auditing and reporting and unlimited versions of files. When files are deleted, you control the retention policy, which has a default of 60, but can go up to 365 days. You're in control of how users share their documents. You can control from which IP locations users can connect from. You can control how users join the site, how to allow external accessors to be able to join as guests or as full active users that can also save files. Do you allow users to do that automatically, or you must force it through for a request? You're in control. Users can view their own WorkDocs activity feed to keep track of changes of their files and folders and to see who made changes. See when files are viewed, downloaded, commented on, shared, locked, deleted. They can search for specific files, folders, or users. Activity feed searches can be filtered by activity type and date modified. Within WorkDocs, WorkDocs admins have near real-time feed on all of the activity within the site. Retention for those feeds is up to 90 days. Admins can view and export the activity feed for an entire site. To use this feature, must first install the WorkDocs companion. You create search parameter filters that you need, maybe activity type, maybe date, and then you export that to either a JSON or a CSV file. Users who aren't administrators can view and export the activity feed for their content only. Amazon WorkDocs is integrated with AWS CloudTrail, a service that provides a record of actions taken by a user, role, or an AWS service in Amazon WorkDocs. CloudTrail captures all the API calls for Amazon WorkDocs as events, including calls from the WorkDocs console and from code calls from the APIs. If you create a trail, you can enable continuous delivery of CloudTrail events to an Amazon S3 bucket, including events for Amazon WorkDocs. If you don't configure a trail, you can still view the most recent events in the CloudTrail console in event history. Using the information collected by CloudTrail, you can determine the request that was made to Amazon WorkDocs, the IP that request was made from, who made the request, when it was made, and additional details. Simply sign in using the AWS console for CloudTrail. So that all sounds super lovely, Andrew. Can we see it in operation? Can we see it working? By all means. Here's my demo environment that we're going to talk through. Very similar to how many of the customers that I've worked with want to test and validate WorkDocs. They want to connect to their existing Active Directory or have their Active Directory accessible so that they can use their existing user IDs. So we've extended Active Directory from our corporate data center into AWS Cloud. In our case, it's via Site VPN. We've created an Active Directory connector, connecting Active Directory service resources in my data center and exposing them to my virtual private cloud within Ireland as my region. And now I'm going to build out my WorkDocs environment so that we can test and understand how it is that it is used by users and by administrators. Cool, so we've seen how customers are using WorkDocs. We've seen why customers WorkDocs. Let's look at what's going on in terms of building out a WorkDocs environment. I signed onto my console. I'm now going to create my WorkDocs environment for my test users to test and have a look at. I've already created my Active Directory connector. I've already created a directory service that's referencing back to my Active Directory within my own environment. I could have created an Active Directory within AWS. I'm going to sign on as an administrator. I shouted the first time, so I'll put it in quieter letters. So now I've created a user and I've created a WorkDocs site. Let's go out of the AWS console and into the admin console for WorkDocs. That's making use of the site URL that you can see on the screen. So I'm signed on to my WorkDocs console. This is the standard user console that users would manage their documents, but I'm an administrator. So I'm going to go to the right-hand side and open up the admin control panel because I've been assigned as an administrator. And here's where I administrate my WorkDocs site. Here's where I've got different configuration settings that we talked about in our admin controls. Here's where I can see the users that are associated with my Active Directory. I've got a range of options that I can make use of. The key thing that I'm going to start off first is the HandCom online editing. This allows users to interact in real time with the documents that they're working on. I've got other options that I can modify, that I can make use of. I could determine how much storage is available for each user in terms of maximum. I can also set IP control lists, so determine where users are connecting from. Maybe I only want to access from a particular site. I can then modify how policy settings are made. How are users managed within my environment? Can I share publicly or can I not share publicly? Is it all users who are added to my Active Directory will become WorkDocs users or not? I can configure all of these in policy settings and allow autonomy of users or allow more control depending on my organization's wants and security needs. So here I'm only going to allow power users to be able to invite external users rather than every user being able to do that service and capability. Cool, so I've set my policy settings. Now I'm going to enable Office Online. Currently not enabled for the site by default, so let's check that out. Make sure that that's all configured. Now, I've already got some users within my Active Directory environment. These are available. They're not users within WorkDocs yet. The default is not to enable users. You saw in the policy settings that I can enable users if needs be, so that when new users are created, they're automatically created as WorkDocs users. Here, what I'm going to do is set up my individual users as active users, set them up as power users or set them up as users as appropriate for their role. And then I'm going to set a limit size on the amount of storage that they can use and consume within the WorkDocs environment. I'm going to set it to be at 50 gig for each one of my users. Here I'm using the console, but obviously with the APIs and the SDK, I could script this, could enable users automatically using a script for particular users within an Active Directory group. I've also got two system users. System users are going to be used in this demo environment to create collaboration team folders. I'm going to log on as those users. Those users own those folders and allow the pre-configuration of that environment prior to users logging on. I'm going to make use of Active Directory groups so that users will be members of either Project Mouse or Project Cat and will work on documents associated with that project. By having a service user, I can pre-configure that environment, pre-configure that share, pre-configure the permissions so that when users log on, they've got access to the resources that they need. We could allow users to share their own team folders. Here we're trying to save them time and effort, give them a faster time to value. So here I log on to a WorkDocs environment as one of my service users because I'm going to set up that initial team folder for my Project Cat, Project Mouse security groups. Put in the super secure password. There's no MFA, Andrew. There isn't any MFA in this demo, but yes, you can enable multi-factor authentication for your remote users in a live environment, should that be required. The users signing on, the system users signing on the site, and they've got the initial experience and a welcome to WorkDocs. I leave that as a fun and exciting exercise. So the users in their WorkDocs web client environment using a browser, that browser might be Safari, it might be IE, it might be Firefox, it might be Chrome. Now let's create a folder. Now that'll appear in my docs for this particular user, for this service user, but this folder will be then shared with other users and it'll appear in their shared folders. Let's give this a name. This is going to be the Project Cats folder for all of the Project Cats team, for all of the Project Cats documents. So I've created that folder and now let's share it with other people. You can see that the service account user, Project Cat, is the only user of that folder at the moment. Let's invite some other people now. WorkDocs has been integrated with my Active Directory, so I've got access to the users who are in my Active Directory. I could type in all of the individual usernames that are associated with this folder, and it'll be recognized because it's associated with my Active Directory. That's complicated, difficult to do at scale, far simpler to make use of an Active Directory group that I know my Project Cat users in this particular instance, those Project Cat users are associated with. So let's give contributor access to that group. Obviously with different access levels, here's contributor so they can read and write to that directory, but I might have Project Mouse, for example, having viewer-only rights. Now, we've set that up as a service account. I'm all good to go. I've got my service account. I've got my environment set up correctly. Let's look at what this would look like from two individual users' points of view. Here I've got John and I've got Shirley. Now I look again. John and Shirley are working together. Shirley's a contractor. She's working from home. Yes, all right, in my example, I've got two workspaces providing this, but let's use our imagination. John's working in the office. Shirley's working from home. Shirley's a contractor and needs access to the files for Project Mouse in this particular instance. John, very unhelpfully, has those files, those important files that need to be shared and distributed amongst the group, on his desktop. Not particularly useful in terms of collaboration and data access for remote users. Shirley's working from home. So, because John is a member of the group Project Mouse, he has access to that shared team folder that's been set up as we did with Project Cat. And he's moved those files from his desktop into his team folder. He's using the WorkDocs Drive client. It's been integrated into his Windows Explorer view. So it's just as if he was cutting and pasting into a folder on his directory. But those files have been uploaded in the background to the WorkDocs site and are now available to other members of that project group who are maybe using their own WorkDocs client, or, as Shirley's doing, making use of the web client to access those documents securely. We've talked about they're secured in the WorkDocs environment at rest. They're encrypted and secured to the end device using network file encryption. And what Shirley's going to do now is interact. Maybe she's on a Chime call, maybe she's on a Zoom call with John, and they're going to work collaboratively together on a document in WorkDocs. So Shirley has opened up the mouse document in her browser using the Handcom editing tool. John's going to do the same. He's opened up the file from Explorer, right-clicked on that, opened up the document in his web console, and is now going to edit that document using the Handcom editing tool. So working on a great literary work here. And there's a discussion about the content of that work. John thinks there needs to be some changes, and he wants to talk Shirley through the changes that he's advising to be made. Shirley's a contractor, has access to this environment using the web console, access securely using the WorkDocs environment. So John moves to the piece where he thinks that their change needs to be made. You can may notice that Shirley's initials are appearing in the document because Shirley's actively working on it, and from Shirley's point of view, John's initials are appearing in the document because he's working on it. I believe John isn't convinced that the poem was written in 1785 and wants to make a particular correction. As you can see, John's working on that document, and that remote contractor, or maybe that home worker in Shirley's case, can see the changes that John's making in real time. Shirley knows better and has changed it back. Well done, Shirley. So if we come out of the document, we've made our changes, we've agreed on the changes that can be made, we could save that as a new version of the document. That's not the only way that you can interact. We talked about, yes, doing online editing, but there's the capability and facility to make use of feedback tools within the WorkDocs environment. Here is Shirley looking at the activity on that file. Here, because Shirley is an individual user, she gets to see her pieces and who's been working on the documents as well. Now, if Shirley's concerned that maybe other people make the same mistake that John's done, so she's going to provide feedback into the document for others to be able to view and potentially comment on as well. And when she's finished doing all of the comments, publishes those so that the rest of the team members can see the comments and feedback that Shirley has made. Now, if John refreshes his document, you see now that document has been saved, so we're now looking at version 2 of the document. We have multiple versions of that document and can see the feedback that other users, Shirley being the great example here, has made and fed back on. So here we've created a WorkDocs site referencing our own Active Directory. We've set policy settings for the environment. We've created users. We've created system users that have created folders for groups, allowing a home worker or a contractor to be able to interact in real time using Handcom and feedback using the console on that WorkDocs environment. Cool, Andy. That looks really impressive. How can I get started myself? Here's the musts, shoulds, coulds have. Amazon WorkDocs Drive is available for 64-bit versions of Windows 7, Windows 8 and Windows 10 if you've still got them in play. And you can have it on Windows Server from way back to 2008 R2 all the way up to 2019. Amazon WorkDocs Drives is also available, as I mentioned, for macOS versions 10.11 or higher. Is there a maximum file upload limit? In the web client, it's 5 gig. The upload size using the Drive client, there's no limit for that. There should be no file type or username restrictions. Cool. So now I've provided the WorkDocs environment, what do my users need, Andy, in order to be able to interact with that site as we saw in the demo? You've got the WorkDocs Drive for Windows Mac client. That allows Windows Explorer shells, Mac extensions, custom icons. We saw them going to green as they've been uploaded to the environment. You've got search notifications and sync status. If you've an Android or an iOS device, the Amazon WorkDocs phone and tablet applications allows you to view, comment, download your Amazon WorkDoc files. You can also view and give feedback on, download other documents if you've got permission to do so. You can download that application from Google Play or Amazon App Store, depending on your device. You sign in with your organization name, your username and password. There'll be a welcome email message from your administrator if the organization has usernames, and you can set a password when you're registered if you've been invited to a WorkDocs site. The Amazon WorkDocs applications for iPhone and iPad allow you to view, comment on, download your Amazon WorkDocs files, just as with Android. You can also view, give feedback on, and download other documents if you've got permissions to do so. You can download the iPhone and iPad apps from the Apple Store and sign in with your own organization name, just as you can with Android. There is also the web client, which is available on Safari. It's available on Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer Edge. With the WorkDocs web client, as we've seen, you can upload, download files, organize your files in the WorkDocs environment. You can also view and comment on documents, just as Shirley did, and documents shared by others. The web client displays previews for many different types of files, depending on the document. If your administrator enables single sign-on, you can use your regular network login to access Amazon WorkDocs. You might need to take additional steps to allow your browser to support single sign-on. Andy, that's splendid. I understand how I can start a WorkDocs environment. I understand the benefit that it can bring to my organizations. I've got existing file stores. Is there a ready and simple way to migrate those files? Absolutely. The Amazon WorkDocs migration service helps you move your users' files, your departmental files, shares to Amazon WorkDocs. The service can migrate large amounts of data from tens of gigabytes to multiple terabytes. Using the Amazon WorkDocs migration service portal, you configure migration tasks, select the source and target WorkDocs account and the site to migrate data to. You can schedule the migration tasks to execute during a specific period as a one-time data transfer operation, or have periodic syncs so as to minimize disruption and downtime for your users. The Amazon WorkDocs migration service portal provides up-to-date information and statuses on migration jobs, including detailed reports once migration has successfully completed. How does it work? The WorkDocs migration service makes use of AWS Data Sync that automatically handles many of the tasks related to data transfers, such as network optimization, data integrity validation, which can slow down migrations, burden your IT operations team. Software development kit? Yes, there's a Workspace's software development kit as part of the AWS SDK. It's designed to accommodate a wide variety of use cases, spanning developer apps to enterprise integration. Amazon WorkDocs operates just as with Amazon Workspace's Amazon AppStream on a pay-as-you-go model, like all AWS services. There's no long-term commitments. Minimum users are free and can be upgraded if needed. If you've Workspaces, you can use WorkDocs for free with access to all features and storage up to 50 gig, and you can upgrade from that 50 gig up to a terabyte. API pricing is in addition to and separate from per user pricing. Charges apply after the 30-day trial period of the WorkDocs site is ended and only apply to third-party calls made by customer applications. There are no charges for API calls made by WorkDocs native applications, including WorkDocs web apps, WorkDocs Drive, WorkDocs Companion, and AWS console operations. For APIs, you pay only for what you use. There is no minimum fee. You can build new applications or create integrations with existing solutions and applications with Amazon WorkDocs. You pay for the API requests made against your WorkDocs site. API request docs are based on the request type and are charged on the quantity of requests as listed on the website. Cool. We've talked through pricing. We've talked through how it looks. We've talked through a demo. Where do we go next, Andy? Where can we go tomorrow? How can we get started ourselves? Amazon WorkDocs, it has a getting started document. You can download WorkDocs Drive from the Amazon WorkDocs site. Learn more on the documentation for WorkDocs, and there is a 30-day free trial for the API use. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope that's been useful for you. I hope that you've got enough information in order to get started, enough information to get you up and running, and I do look forward at a future reInvent or at a future summit, you talking about how successful your WorkDocs implementation has been and how it's enabled you to be agile and help your users collaborate securely using WorkDocs. Thanks very much.